It's a little bit different experience. I guess what's going on nowadays, and you know, reading about Ishmael, and his he was forced out, with his mom to somewhere that he wasn't aware of or he never experienced, and I'm pretty sure many of us, or I often heard, during the sermon saying, it all goes back to, Isaac, Abraham, and Isaac and Ishmael. Whenever there is like a intense conflict occurs in that, Israel and the Palestinian region, and also along with the, support of Israel's right to, occupy the land. And it's been ongoing. The conflict's been ongoing for a while, and it's been centuries, and a lot of people had to suffer. And I feel, I feel like some of the Christian media and publications often link those stories I just mentioned, which is Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael, to the current political situation in the Middle East. And there are a lot of occasions that whenever I encounter people mentioning about it, they describe it as it meant to happen. And so there's like no hope for the end to this conflict. And it always goes back to that Bible verse and what happened in Genesis. And I guess most in blame of Abraham, being unfaithful to God's promise, and ultimately having Hagar to bear a child. And it seems like it was inevitable. But to come to think of it, the severance certainly prevailed, the division, and hindered the reconciliation until this point. And there's an ongoing battle for, I think it's for no reason. And so often, media, and I guess the beneficiary of the aversion of the, or the beneficiaries of this conflict often use this to, justify nationalist movement or, ethnic position. And I'm thinking, why would God then even started or protected and promised, Ishmael for, what he'll become in the end? I mean, he said, he'll make Ishmael fruitful and multiply him, exceedingly, and make him into a great nation. And like, why would he even say that if the end results or what's going to happen in the future will end up being, massive, warfare, and a lot of killings in that in Middle East? And is it out of like a guilt trip, or just being just being generous, all caring God, or just to watch and create large nations of faith, fighting against each other to see pretty much who proclaims itself to be a true nation that deserves God, or to be a God's chosen nation. And it seems like it all leads to the lineage for some reason to me. And a lot of churches emphasize, or in support of Israel or Judaism, it's the lineage is like a sacred thing, and it seems so invincible that going against, or even defying, or try to argue, or try to be critical about it, it's not allowed, or it's tabooed. And I don't think, lineage is somewhat important, but at, at this point, or the way I'm looking at it is, it's nothing more than to justify nationalism, to perpetuate division through aversion. And maybe a small dose of nationalism may give you a sense of belonging. It's true, and there are times when you're I'm grateful to be American, or and there's a sense of belonging and appreciation to it. But when there's immense, but then at the same time there's immense potential to become um, a monster, pretty much, that results or resulting into violence. And it is really saddening, or pretty hard to see, the children to adults in Israel, and Palestine region are they're forced to engage in a conflict directly every day. And for, especially in Palestine, or Palestine controlled area, I mean, it's the scale of power is, it's unmatched to the other, and it's already tilted, and there's nothing much you can do. But I sort of understand when there is, like a terrorist attack, which shouldn't be happening, but there is a sense of a desperation, and sort of leads someone to act in that kind of way. And it is really dreadful, or really it's hard to express whenever I see that going through. And they're mostly influenced by the regional upheaval, political movements, and the compulsory of the military service that people have to do, to point gun against each other. And it was mainly to, I guess, in a good way, to protect their nation, but ultimately it's to kill one another to preserve oneself or one nation. And recently, or a few months ago, when my in-laws came over to just to talk, just to visit, and we talked about this DNA testing, and it all, those DNAs are traces back to to different regions of the world. I mean, I could be part, I guess, Caucasian, or there in our DNA there is a little bit of all different races, and that I see it as sharing a commonality. And our appearances, or our appearance, may look different, but there's but does that really matter? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, ultimately, we should pursue and seek for opportunity to start, continue, and lead others in the journey of reconciliation. But rather than coming together, we often find our differences and sometimes try to justify, our interests or our wrongdoings by, I'm the chosen one. What are you going to do about it? That kind of attitude. God's going to forgive me, and it's okay, whatever it is. But if you look at the, crucifixion of the Jesus Christ, I think it pretty much tells us what he wanted to do. And one of them is he wanted to dismantle, I guess, if I were to say tradition is kind of, I guess, a little aggressive, but what, he wanted to dismantle what had been done before and what's been traditional, so that it became an impediment to believe in God, and it became so exclusive to certain group of people that nobody else to, even get an access to, get the taste of God's blessing. And that exclusiveness, it is a real impediment to everyone. And I don't think that's what Jesus wanted. And we tend to do that over and over and over again, even though we already learned, and Jesus already has shown us that it's not the right thing to do. And reading this passage, sort of rethink and try to track back what I've been told before, and also sort of help me to relate this to our current events, which is, the Black Lives Matter. And there's always, conversation between All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. But the reality is, there's been oppression throughout centuries or decades, and it hasn't been never addressed. And we already know as a Christian how it needs to be done, and what we need to do to address it and to resolve it. And but many, even my friends or people around me do have a different ideas, but we just gotta come together and talk about it. Not just talking about it within ourselves, talk about it loud enough so everyone can hear it. And I think we should keep actively doing that. And not only the Black Lives Matter, but other parts of the world that's been suffering from this religious conflicts, or the killing of, or the murdering of the the minorities of color or religion or anything else that's been going around the world. So I just wanted to share that with you today. And this is what I felt, and what I learned, I guess, reading this Bible about Ishmael, Isaac, and Abraham, and how Ishmael was, had to force to leave his family, and God promised him. And it's not trying to, distinguish or try to separate, who deserves God. Is Ishmael a father of Islam, or Isaac the father of Christian? I don't think that matters that much. And I think that's a wrong way to approach the Bible, and that's not what Jesus wanted us to pursue and go pursue along. So that's what I wanted to share today.